some little children. I when they sing it and they dance, just really admire them. Small days is still on their mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor and some little children. And when they sing it and they dance, just really admire them. Yes, they're singing. Ching, ching, ching. In a bar. See for mama. The 10 fat chickens. And I she for one. And she won't give me one. You see that girl named Dorothy. She fat like a butter. And she maggle like a chow. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Never had some little children. I'm gonna sing it and dance, that's really admire them. What they're singing? On your carpet, you must be like the roses, all you need, bright and shining, you must be, and show me the one, love the best. When I marry, I give you the ring. First the girls, second the boys, Sunday, Monday, afternoon, we will spend our honeymoon. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor, some little children. I'm gonna sing it and the dancers really admire them. Join the singing. Hold my house on fire. The old man ran away. He ran for the police to get the water. The only fire down there. Escalated, shoo, shoo, shoo. Escalated, shoo, shoo, shoo. And I wipes the lady face. The lady wipes the lady face. And she fell down, and she fell down, and she fell in the ocean too. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor, some little children. I'm really singing and the dancers really admire them. Hear them singing? Children, children. Yes, mama. Where you been? Grandmama. What she give you? Bread and cheese. Where is mine? On the shelf. How me go get up? I'm on a chair. So what's it called? Pinocchio. Bad picnic. Pinocchio. Wicked picnic. Pinocchio. Oh, small days is still on the mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor, some little children. I'm gonna sing it and the dancers really admire them. I'm gonna sing it and the dancers really admire them. Small days is a good time. Neighbor, some little children. I'm gonna sing it and the dancers really admire them. Yes, they're singing. Ching, ching, ching. In a bar. See for mama. The 10 fat chickens. And I she for one. And she won't give me one. You see that girl named Dorothy. She fat like a butter. And she maggle like a chow. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor, some little children. I'm gonna sing it and the dancers really admire them. What they're singing? On your carpet, you must be like the roses, all you need, bright and shining, you must be, and show me the one, love the best. When I marry, I give you the ring. First the girls, second the boys, Sunday, Monday, afternoon, we will spend our honeymoon. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor, some little children. I'm gonna sing it and the dancers really admire them. Join the singing. Hold my house on fire. The old man ran away. He ran for the police to get the water. The only fire down there. Escalated, shoo, shoo, shoo. Escalated, shoo, shoo, shoo. And I wipes the lady face, the lady wipes the lady face. And she fell down, and she fell down, and she fell in the ocean too. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor, something to children. I'm really singing and the dancers really admire them. Hear them singing, children, children. Yes, mama. Where you been? Grandmama. What she give you? Bread and cheese. Where is mine? On the shelf. How me go get up? Climb on the chair. So what's it called? Peanut cake. Bad picnic. Peanut cake. Wicked picnic. Peanut cake. Oh, small.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Killian Mall, 162 Lamaha Street in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins firm.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Good evening and welcome to Straight Up. My name is Mark Benchop. We're going to rock and roll just for about 1 hour this evening. As you notice there on the page that is on our screen there, it's the death announcement of the late Foreign Minister of Guyana, Rashleigh Esmond Jackson. Rashleigh Esmond Jackson. That's the funeral announcement. If you are in Guyana, wherever you are, I'm not sure, but these days they do have Zoom funerals, so you'll have that opportunity to bid him your final farewell. Former foreign minister of the Cooperative of Guyana. He held several other positions as well, but many of us remember him as Guyana's foreign affairs minister. One of the best, nothing in comparison to what we're seeing as of today. Absolutely nothing. And Rashleigh Jackson beat the guy that's sitting in that position right now by over 150 years. Rashleigh would leave behind the shoes that not even anyone in the installed PPP regime will be able to fill. Not a single one. Then again, nobody can really walk in his shadow. And you know what I mean when I say not even in his shadow, because we do have folks who are shadowing those who are installed right now. They have shadow this, shadow that, I don't know, but it's beautiful Guyana, right? So we'll leave that for now. My name is Mark Benchop, and you're on to Straight Up on 107.1 FM. We have tonight our guest, two members of parliament. They're shadows also. They're good shadows, in my opinion. We'll have them on shortly. Former Minister of Infrastructure, Junior Minister of Infrastructure, and also uh, she spent some time as just a short while as the Minister, Junior Minister of Housing. And also we have Member of Parliament, Miss Coretta McDonald is with us as well. But before we get to them, guess who else is with us this evening? Just to say a quick hi while you guys share the link. And you know, we just say it once. Thank you for sharing the link. Some folks have problems sharing the link, and we understand, but we hope that that problem will be resolved as quickly as possible. Let's say a quick hi to Lemon, who left, went on the parkway, dance up, do up, all manner of stuff he did, but he's with us this evening for a quick minute. Lemon, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, everybody? 107.1 family. I am back to work, and it's a long time, you guys didn't hear from me, so I'm
Yep,
glad.
you've been missing in action and all manner of things. But quickly, since you're not booked to be on with us tonight, you have returned from the parkway all over you were. If I have to grade you as a shadow talk show host, I'll probably give you a two right now. Probably. But quickly, what's your take on what's happening in Guyana before we get to our guest, the Honorable MPs Coretta McDonald and
Well, Guyana, what I see right now, Guyana is not a country right now. Guyana is very corrupt. It's not a real country. And I'm sorry to say that. All these guys, Infernali, Jagdio, Egil, run around the place, parading themselves around the city, doing nothing but just sharing money to all of the cronies. But Guyana is not a real country right now.
so you are basically upset that the folks in the install regime, they're out there sharing out money, millions upon millions of dollars to their cronies, and you're upset about that. And I'm sure that it's a question that I will ask our two guests this evening. But continue quickly. You have another minute.
Yes, and I'm glad to be back, and you guys gonna hear from me in a week's time. So I want to get onto the program to Miss McDonald. Hi, everyone, and good night.
Let me quickly before you go. Let me add them so you can also say goodnight to them because they'd love to probably have you say goodnight to them. Go ahead, Lemon. Say goodnight to our
Hi,
guest.
good night, everyone. How are you guys doing?
Good night to you, Lemon. I'm doing well, thanks.
Okay.
You see, we do have an operator. Lemon, quickly before you go, if you have one question to ask these honorable members of parliament, what will be your question, sir?
Well, I want you guys to, put more pressure on the install regime for me, so that we could get things done.
All right. Thank you so much, Lemon. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good.
Good night.
Okay,
Good
so
night.
Lemon got this thing. Let's start right off with that. Thank you guys for being on with us this evening. Lemon just said put more pressure on these folks. We just lost the Honorable MP. Sorry, the Honorable MP McDonald. But Lemon said put more pressure. Put more pressure on them. Pressure on them. More pressure on the installed PPP regime. What is your take on what Lemon just said? Put more pressure on them. Are you guys putting enough pressure on them? Let's start with whoever wants to take up first. Go ahead.
Mark,
Well,
time. Oh,
go ahead, Annette.
okay, thank you. A pleasant night to you, Mark. A pleasant night to Coretta, my colleague, and most importantly, to your viewers and listeners on 107.1 FM. Mark, I do
agree with the sentiments expressed by Lemon, that we need to put more pressure on the government. It is not to say that we're not pressuring them, but yes, more needs to be added on this install regime. So I support the views expressed by Lemon.
All right. I just want you both to know that the views expressed by Lemon is also shared by yours truly, and it's also shared by almost everyone who are watching this show right now. Miss McDonald, your take, please, on what Lemon asked.
Hi, Mark. Good night to you and good night to all your viewers. And of course, a special good night to my colleague MP, Annette Ferguson. Mark, I do agree that we have to put some more pressure. But the thing is, you would recognize that the 31 MPs they are not the PNCR, they are not the WPA, they are not the AFC, they're not the coalition, the combined coalition. And so when we talk about putting more pressure on, it means that we have to come together as one combined force, one combined unit, so that all of us in every corner, we can put the pressure. So when we start in Region 6, then we start in Region 5, and we start in Region 4, and it catches on and we go to Region 10. So we cannot continue to put pressure while we're isolated and while we're divided. Let me say that. And the most important fact in this whole issue is all of us have got to recognize that our people are suffering. You know, I hear persons say, well, I'm going to support you, but you know, I have a business and I can't come out there. Oh, I have this, I have my job here and I can't come out there. So how do we put the pressure? How do we really put the pressure on if some persons are going to sit on the sideline and some sitting on the fence and deciding, well, you know, let them go forward. I can sit here because I got this to protect and I have that to protect. At the end of the day, you might very well end up losing all of that if you decide not to say what is supposed to be said or not to do what is supposed to be said. So while we're having the talks about putting pressure, which I fully agree with, putting more pressure, all of us have got to understand that while some of us might not be directly affected, all of us are going to be consumed if we allow the PPP to continue to run rampage across this country.
I agree with exactly what you guys are saying. And we're talking about putting the pressure on these installed folks, these folks who have rigged their way into the presidency. That's a fact. They are running from that. They don't want to present the evidence. Honorable Curtin McDonald, you just mentioned that people need to be united. People need to come out as well. And I'm sorry we keep losing the Honorable MP McDonald. But people can say on the other side of the equation, people can say that even in situations when they're expecting their members of parliament, particularly those in the opposition, whether they are AFC, whatever they are, APNU, PNC, people need to see all of these MPs coming out and show that unity. We're not seeing that, and that is a cause for concern. But yet, the members of parliament expect the people to just gravitate and come out just like that. People want to be motivated. People want to see their representatives out there on the ground with them, not just a one-off show or the photo op and these sort of things. They're not jumping on social media to do some sort of campaigning. It's social media campaigning is not enough. They need to be on the ground. We don't see a lot of these members of parliament. I'm not saying that you guys should answer or find excuses for that. I don't know. You guys are laughing. Who wants to take up that? We're not seeing a lot of you guys.
Well, Mark,
Hold on.
Good.
Mark, the fact is that we don't see, and that's being honest, we don't see many of our MPs the way we ought to see them out there. And of course, our supporters, they're looking for that kind of motivation. They want to see that kind of leadership. They want to see you there with them. Even if you're not leading from the front, they want to see you there with them. But like everything else, you know, persons decide that they have their own way of doing things, or they want to do things this way. And sometimes we recognize that it doesn't operate like that. I might not like to protest, but because of the cause, I have to be out there. Because of what is happening, I've got to take off this, whether I want to say this priestly robe or whatever it is, and go out there. Many times we forget, some of us, especially those of us who are Christians, we forget that Jesus behaved crazy when he entered the synagogue and he saw what was happening there. At that point, he said, "You were desecrating my father's church," and so he behaved like a crazy man. And I just today, a young man was saying to me, "Miss McDonald, church is not for politicians. You can't have church boy and church girl and politicians." And I said, "Stop. Politicians can be church boys and church girls, but they have to understand the difference between the two, when to put on the church robe and when to put on your politician robe." And so I think we have got to be able to surround ourselves a little more. And I don't want to make excuses for any of my colleagues. But we've got to understand how serious of a time we are living in. And we have to lead from the front. We can't just sit in the National Assembly and decide we are going to take part in the debates when you know fully well that the numbers are going to outnumber you. But we've got to go out there. We've got to go down to the street corners, meet the people, and do that as often as possible. So when you do that, it is easy for you to rally your troops. If you want them to come to Coffee Square at 10 o'clock, it's easy for you to do that because they've been seeing you, they have developed that kind of relationship with you, and they have that confidence in you.
Absolutely. Before we get to Honorable Ferguson, Member of Parliament Annette Ferguson, let me just say that even if you are preaching from the pulpit, you can still be political. You can't just divide up because, as you mentioned, what Jesus Christ did in the synagogue, he didn't behave like a madman. He behaved like a politician. He behaved like a representative of the people. He was angry that the money changers weren't listening. Their ears hard. And that is exactly what the PPP is doing. Their ears hard. They're not listening. And they need to be sent that message the same way that Jesus Christ expressed that bravery, the same way Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. expressed that bravery. He didn't divide. He didn't say separate it. He didn't say he's going to preach in the pulpit today and then go out and speak the politics tomorrow. He didn't separate that. For Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., what he preached in the pulpit, he preached in the streets as well. And so we need to see many more Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s in Guyana. We're not seeing that. Our church leaders are afraid to speak out. They're afraid to call a spade a spade. Even in the Bible says that when you see an injustice, beat it out to your brother or your sister, and you turn a blind eye, you're equally as guilty as the perpetrator. And so a lot of our religious leaders, whether they are Hindu priests, whether they are imams, whether they are pastors or reverends or even the fake bishops. Sorry that I have to mention that fake bishop stuff.
Or Mark, whether they're Adventists.
Good. Well, Adventists are also part of the Christian denomination, but thank you for squeezing your part, whether they're Adventists or whether they're Jehovah's Witnesses. A lot of our Jehovah's Witnesses isolate themselves. They say they don't get involved in the politics. And I say that because some of my relatives are Jehovah's Witnesses. They're watching right now. They need to get involved because when you separate yourself from decisions that will later affect you, then you have no one to blame. Absolutely no one. So all of our people, everyone have to get involved, including those pastors, some of whom might be watching right now. Ms. Ferguson, your response to that.
Mark, I support my colleagues' expressions, but I would want to add by saying I know for a fact that the leader of the opposition, along with members of parliament and non-members of parliament, they have been visiting communities, trying to assure our people that when the time comes for mass mobilization, they ought to be ready. I think just last Friday night, those exact sentiments, no, not Friday night, Saturday night, those exact sentiments were being expressed. I can speak for myself as a member of parliament and a representative of constituencies in South Georgetown. I have been on the ground. Perhaps persons may want to to see images of me on the ground as proof. But sometimes, you know, you want your work to speak for itself. So it's not a case whereby MPs are not on the ground. I know just this afternoon I was in my constituency before I prepare myself for this program. So I have been working, you know, amongst ordinary people there in South Georgetown. Just this afternoon, as I said, I was in East Rumfeld and back square. To be exact, and persons have been expressing, you know, what is really happening in the country. You know, people telling us straight out, you know, when you guys are ready, we are ready. We got to get these people out of this government because they're doing us a whole lot of injustice. And it seems as though nobody can tell these people whether the right or the wrong. But even though we have been exposing the wrongs, Mark, we have been talking continuously about them, Mark. We know it's the hardest bunch of people we're dealing with, people who don't care about ordinary Guyanese, but themselves, Mark. So for me, I can give account for my stewardship.
All right, but as a team, the team has to give an account for that. And some can be MIA, they just can't be instigate action at all. We have all manner of things happening, but some can just stand up behind closed doors, and people are afraid to speak out or afraid to go out and represent their people. They need to do it. Lots of people are punishing in the country. Cost of living is up, and people need proper representation. This is not to
Yep.
say that some within the coalition MPs, that is, are not out there. Some are out there, but the people need to see all out there, not more, but all to be out there. And so when they don't see that, they kind of assume that there is indeed a divided coalition. When you have a divided coalition, you just can't win an election like that. No matter how much you say or you think that you could beat the PPP, you could beat them now, and you know, it is just not going to happen with a divided coalition. And those in the leadership, all of you guys need to get whatever act together. This division has to stop. We need to see that unity of all the parties to come together, whether at press conferences, whether at outreaches and these things, because in a coalition, one can go so and the other one goes so. In other words, one can take a boat in Linden to cross over to Wisman, the other one going over to Mackenzie and not saying anything to each other. It's just not going to happen. But before we continue with the politics, though, the last time the Honorable MP McDonald was on this show, I briefly spoke with the now late Foreign Affairs Minister of Guyana, Mr. Rashleigh Jackson. Your reflection on Mr. Jackson, please, Ms. McDonald.
Rashleigh, Mark, and to you and your viewers, Rashleigh Jackson, for me, I'm sure you know that too, Mark, that we shared a very close relationship. We had a bond, and his death is a tremendous blow to me and to Guyana and to the wider the Caribbean and further afield. We have lost a gem, an icon, a man who was very, very strategic with what he did, a man who stood up for his country. And in a million years, I'm not sure that we are going to be able to have another Rashleigh Jackson. And so let me take this time off to say to his immediate relatives, his children, his grandchildren, to express our sincerest condolences to them and to pray that God would give them the strength to deal with this severe blow at this time. Like I said, even up to his death, he was still serving as an advisor on the whole border issue, where his input was greatly valued. And I can say this, that when the PPP were in office before, Rashleigh Jackson was one of the persons who they sought after for his knowledge. As a matter of fact, he was one of the persons who was there to compile that document and assisted in keeping Venezuela out. When the coalition came into office, he did the same thing, and the PPP here now being installed, they sought after him again. And so this is saying to us that Rashleigh Jackson, who received an award, a national award, the Order of Excellence, and who was one of our longest serving foreign affairs minister, that he gave so much to Guyana and still had a lot more to give, I believe. But I guess we can't question this, but we have lost. We have indeed lost a son of his wife.
Thank you so much for your reflection, Coretta McDonald, the Member of Parliament in Guyana. You are correct. Not too many people can follow the footsteps of Mr. Jackson, and those who are in the field of foreign relations and all these things should really study Rashleigh Jackson. They should just study this gentleman. He was one of a kind. And that is why he was, for many years, the foreign affairs of Guyana. And the other thing is because this man was his intellect was up there, and he never got around boasting and bragging and showing off about it or whatever. He was very humble. And those who are seeking to be one day maybe in the position of foreign affairs, as Minister of Foreign Affairs, they should really study this guy as to how he was humble. They themselves need to be humble, whoever they are. But let's hear from Honorable Ellen.
Well, Mark, I recall in my younger days, one of my uncles, the late Dr. Tyrone Ferguson, who was one time HPS under the Hoyt's regime, head of the Presidential Secretariat. I recall him sharing with me as a little girl, some of the workings of the late Rashleigh Jackson and what he would have gleaned from him, from this great son of the soil, as a politician or a technocrat, whichever capacity my uncle would have served in. So I think even the books, my uncle wrote 2 books. I think one has to do with structural adjustment. I think the late Rashleigh Jackson might have had some input during the compilation of that book. So my sojourn into mainstream politics, I had, I think, on 2 occasions, met Mr. Jackson, and we shared as a young politician. He was able to give me some pointers how to become a better politician if you really want to continue in this field. We know of his work. We know of his writings. We know of his commitment and dedication to service, not only at the national level, but regionally, internationally, and even at the level of the People's National Congress reform. Because I recall serving as an past executive member of the party, whenever we have to seek out advice or information, anything foreign affairs, the late Jackson was called upon, and he rendered his services gracefully. So losing him at age 93, we cannot, Mark, question this, because we all have to pass through this period of our life. But the work that he would have done would always remain in the hollow walls, whether in the libraries, in the People's National Congress reform, even the newspapers, because quite recently he had a letter penned, I think, to the editor in one of the dailies. So he has left a rich legacy for young budding politicians like myself, Coretta, and those coming after, even at the level of foreign affairs, We can learn so much from this great man. And yes, he would have contributed significantly to the bird issue. And at the time of his death, he was integrally involved. So Guyana has indeed lost a champion. Guyana has indeed lost a true servant. Guyana has indeed lost a son. So may his soul rest in peace. May I extend my personal condolences to the children, the grandchildren, and all the other relatives, and most importantly, to his family in the People's National Congress reform. May his soul find eternal rest.
All
Amen.
right. Well said. Thank you both on that. We want to move on to other stuff, but before we moved on, I'm so happy to hear what you guys have expressed of the tremendous amount of contributions that the late Rashleigh Jackson has made to the entire Guyana in service to his people. We salute that and we respect that. But here's a question, and I wish I can whisper it to you guys. I don't know what sort of response you guys are going to give me. And I'm doing it not to be mischievous, having outlined all of the works that he has, put out there for all of us Guyana, all of Guyana, sorry, and especially for the People's National Congress Reform, a party that he represented for decades. The question is, and in case I have missed it, I miss things. I'm not always that perfect, but is there a book of condolences open at Congress Place for that man who has made the party really, really proud?
Mark, if I can answer that very quickly, we have not done that. And that is simply because Rashleigh is Rashleigh was a very, very private person, and his children did request. As a matter of fact, the party wanted to have a night of reflection for him, but that was not what the children wanted, and so we went ahead with their request and what their desire was, and so we did not do that.
So one can understand what the family has requested or whatever, but I'm not sure that one needs to get a family permission to have a book right there in Congress Place for members, including the leadership and members of parliament, to sign a book of condolences, different from a night of tribute, indeed. But there is no such book, maybe. I don't know. Ms. Ferguson, there's no such book. All right. So there's no such book at all. Let's move on. I noticed a question, and I really do mean that. Let's move on. Thank you. I've noticed a comment. Someone is saying that the Guyana Teachers Union, lots of things happening, questionable things, bad leadership at the level of the Ministry of Education. Priya is just running around, dancing around, doing all a bunch of nonsense. You, Miss Carter McDonald, you wear another hat. You're the General Secretary of the union. But before we get your response to what is the union doing, the union seems quiet. Look at what is happening here. Education Minister, so-called Education Minister, launches breakfast program for grade 6 pupils, just one grade 6. And so all of the other kids are going to go to school and peep through the window and watch the grade 6 students eating, and they can't eat. Oh, poor Priya. Why, or do you believe it is accurate with that comment someone made that the Guyana Teachers Union is quiet? Ms. McDonald?
I think what is happening is that before there were persons who were very upbeat about what has been happening. What we have found is that, and I'm going to be straight here, is one, we all know how vindictive the PPP could be, and the kinds of threats they carry out, and what they would do to persons who are not strong. Everyone is not a Coretta MacDonald, and so persons who are holding office within the GTU, they wouldn't come out there and stand up and speak out the way Coretta MacDonald would do that. And so while we are doing, there's lots and lots of work that is being done behind the scene. that persons sometimes are not recognizing. Persons would have wanted to see the GTU president out there, the GTU's first vice president out there, the GTU second vice president out there, and every other officer out there saying what is supposed to be said. Or even if you don't have all of the officers there, you're hearing from at least 2 or 3 of the officers every time, every now and again. There has been, maybe persons are afraid of what will come down to them, because we have some new officers who are on board now, and they're all classroom teachers. Many of them are not at the level of a head teacher or a deputy head teacher, and I think that is kind of taking a toll on them. But I'm not saying that they should be quiet, because the fact that you have taken up this position, it means that you have to go out there, you have to be proactive, you have to be a leader, you have to be brave enough to do what you're supposed to do. We have been lukewarm for some time, but I think you noticed the president out there last Sunday evening on a live for 1 hour, talking about what is happening and what is happening in the system, what our teachers are going through, and the kind of threat that he sent out there on Sunday evening to our teachers, saying, if you went to school on Monday and the things were not right, what you had to do. And you've seen, I'm not sure if you saw them, but we've had pictures rolling around showing what has been happening in the schools. I think what has happened now is maybe just like everything else. People have recognized that the PPP, they're even more vindictive at this time. And so persons are very scared. But
so
the
GTU... Not to cut you, Ms. McDonald, you've said this on 2 occasions thus far, that the PPP is vindictive and people are afraid. Who cares whether the PPP is vindictive? We know that they're vindictive, but we cannot just having that as an excuse where our elected officials, whether the GTU president and other elected officials or members of parliament, are going to sing the same song for the most part. Not all of you guys are singing it, that the PPP is vindictive. And so we just got to be careful. When that message is conveyed, especially publicly, what do you think it does to your support base? Because if those who have been elected or selected as our political representatives, or even in the unions and so forth, are saying that the PPP is vindictive, so people are afraid to come out. I don't know, maybe they need to be in some other business. Maybe they should just sell plantain chips or Polori, go Monrepo and put up a stand and sell Polori. But continue.
But like I said earlier, Mark, everybody is not a Coretta McDonald, and so you wouldn't dare to go out there and do the things that Coretta McDonald would do. And like you said, if persons, and I said this, I hinted to this earlier too, if you have decided to become a leader, then you've got to understand that when the lashes come, you got to take the lashes. When the hard times come, you got to roll with the punches. When it's time to stand out there, you have to stand out there. And so I would want to encourage my colleagues, whether you're original Vice President Berbice Demerara Essequibo, whether you're second or first Vice President, or whoever you happen to be in the GTU, this fight is about us, and we've got to stand up and fight for our people because they've elected us to serve. You know, Coretta McDonald, whether MP or not, Coretta McDonald will say the things that I have to say because I've got to represent my people.
Yes.
I have no holes on anyone. I hold nothing personal against anyone. But when you try to trample on the rights of my members, when you try to trample on my rights, because I am a teacher by profession. And so when you don't release my $8,000 clothing allowance, you're trampling on my rights. And so I will talk. And when I speak for those who can't speak for themselves. But again, everyone is not a Coretta McDonald, but we have to do what we're supposed to do.
And even a Coretta McDonald should intensify the fight as well, whether for the union or politically. And you have been doing a good job. But in this upcoming new year, or even before that, we want to see more of Coretta McDonald out there. Coretta McDonald is just one person. I know that. You got to drag the rest of them out Let them come out. The same with Miss Ferguson. Drag them out. If they just want to dress up and go in Parliament and some little nice-ish during budget debates and all these things, that's not politics. That's not political representation. And we don't want to see that. It's either you guys drag them out into the streets to represent us, the people, or we will drag them out ourselves. We will go in front of their homes and protest and say, look, you're being paid to represent us. Y'all are not representing us. Good. Concerning Mark Light, the president of the Guyana Teachers Union, he said he did a live. I don't know what was that live. So they waited until hours before school starts and then come out to say to do a live. They got to be proactive. This should have been 1 month ago, forcing the hands of those vagabonds in the Ministry of Education to come out one day and just do a live and pomposette yourself and feel as though that is representation and you're standing up for teachers. It doesn't work like that at all. And a lot of people during the course of the Guyana Teachers Union elections campaign, everybody had a voice. Everybody were out there. As soon as most of them got elected, they gone right back into their cuckoo's nest, and we're just not hearing from them. It is called selfish leadership, selfish representation, and it's got to stop. Ms. McDonald, you are there as the Guyana Teachers Union General Secretary. Put a stopping to it, please. Expose them. That's all. Please do that. Let's move on for a quick second. We want to talk now. Well, let's stick to this school here. Let's get the Honorable MP Ferguson's position on just one grade getting little to eat. One grade alone, and that for Priya Manikchan and her colleagues, cohorts them in the installed PPP regime, are celebrating this as a success story with a couple dry juice and 2 packs of plantain chips or polori or a fudge, and that is a success story. Your take on this here, Ms. Ferguson?
Well, Mark, this calls for serious concerns, and because based on the caption here, Education Minister launches breakfast program for grade 6 pupils. Is it? Well, I haven't read the entire article to get a sense as to what the program entails, whether it will be across the board program or it was just launched to accommodate one specific school. But that being said, Mark, you know what has happened to the other grades? You have from grade 1 to 6 at the primary levels. Then you have from grade 7 to 11 at the secondary level. So aren't there all children within the school system that should be benefiting from such program, and not forgetting the nursery school pupils too? But Mark, it clearly is saying to me that this government has no plan, whether for the education sector, the housing sector, all the other sectors. They just don't have a plan. And may I remind you, Mark, and your listeners, during the coalition's 5-year in office, we were able to have breakfast programs in school. And you know what, Mark? We did not discriminate. We said that breakfast will be given to all the pupils or the students within the school system. And not only did we provide breakfast, the other B we provided too were transportation buses. We had in excess of 29 buses serving regions and communities across this land. And we know, we have heard and read of the concerns expressed by parents, leaders in the region, MPs too, who would have highlighted the divisive tactics by this administration by depriving our children free transportation services to and from school. Why, Mark? Because it's not a PPP initiative, it's not a Jack Deal's initiative, but it's because it's a David Granger initiative. Education is important. So while we welcome the breakfast, I believed, Mark, that all pupils all students within the school system should be able to benefit from the program, because at the end of the day, Mark, whose resources are funding it? It is taxpayers' money. Those very students, those very pupils, it's their parents who are paying taxes, 28% from their salary when the month come. So I believe it is the time for the ministry to review many of these programs that they have started to roll out. So in this case, we're talking about the breakfast. I think the Honorable Madam Priya should really review this program and ensure that all students and pupils within this school system benefit from such programs.
I don't know, sometimes you guys say it with such a straight face, addressing people as honorable when in fact they are more dishonorable than anything else. And these people who are part of this install this corrupt, this rigged, this racist regime. Sometimes my, not bumps, but my little, the hair on my skin just grow when I hear you guys, but honorable and they're not honorable, they're dishonorable. But I tell you, Miss Coretta McDonald, from the quarantine and going to school, I ain't going to no school, and no so-called government, no illegal government gonna have no feeding program to feed only one classroom alone. It's not gonna happen. I'm walking through, I'm gonna go in a classroom and I'm gonna take my juice, I'm gonna take a little polori, whatever they're doing, and fudge and eat it. It is a disgrace, it's a shameful act. What have you guys said about that particular issue, Ms. McDonald?
Well, they whole big talk about the coalition, and let me say this: Priya has taken so much time to abuse out the coalition that she forgets that she is the Minister of Education and what she is supposed to be, and she has neglected her responsibility as Minister of Education. And before I go to the breakfast, let me say this one: we have seen all across this country, some schools could not be reopened because of works that are going on at the schools. All across this country, in every region, we have seen that happening. And this is happening because the PPP are about the 3 Fs: friends, family, and the favorite.
I thought you were going to say the other F publicly. We all know you should have substituted that. They're just about the 3 Fs indeed. But
yes, and so what we have seen happening in the regions is that you have a certain bunch of contractors who have been selected to service, let's say, six set of contractors, and they have to service 24 schools. And so within that 8 weeks period, they couldn't complete what they were supposed to be doing. In other instances, we found jobs were being kept for some friends and some families. So as recent as Friday last, contracts were being awarded to contractors to do work in schools. And these are the things that Priya and Nigel Dharamlal, who taking time off to talk about dildo, those are the things that they should fix. Priya, the time should take to talk about the coalition.
Recently, you're taking time off to talk about something else, a rather disrespectful thing toward the leader of the opposition. So not only dildo he's talking about something else that he is oftentimes fixated with, and probably speaking from experience. Him, that is.
But you know what, Mark? We have recognized and we've come to the conclusion that Dharamlal is a special child, and he needs special attention. And when he doesn't get those kinds of attention, he throws that kind of tantrum. Other than that, he gets very excited with certain things. You notice Godi and dildo and those kinds of things. Those kinds of things excite him. I don't know why, but we are right now trying to consult.
We know why. All of our listeners know why he's fixated.
But we're consulting a psychologist to deal with Dharamlal. But I want to say that these are the 2 ministers who are responsible for ensuring that the schools work properly. Dharamlal is responsible for the regions, and so he controls the paycheck, the payroll for the REOs and the REDOs and those people. And Priya, who is manning education, should have had her officers there and herself manning what is happening in every region with the schools, so as to ensure that come September 5th, you would have had schools ready for the reopening. But that did not happen because, of course, they're taking time off to do all kinds of foolishness. And so she cursed out the coalition about what happened in 2020 when the coalition closed schools because of COVID, not realizing that the entire world closed their doors on educational institutions and offices and factories and everywhere else. But again, Priya is another special child and who needs special attention, because when you could have a minister of education who would stand up very, very proud to say she is a preposition and want to argue with you on that, then you understand the level of where we are. More so when you have a minister of education going into another man's domain to cuss them out, then you understand the kind of people we're dealing with. And so this whole breakfast thing that she came out there with is a point. She always wants to prove points. And so it's a point she wanted to prove that the coalition did not do this. But she forgot that the coalition did not only do breakfast for one set of children. When the coalition did breakfast, it was for an entire school. And children there were identified from the various classes because of their needs to participate in that breakfast, the hot meal that we had there. They did not only have that, they had buses, they had bicycles, they had boats, they had books, they had books. Priya doesn't remember those things. But here we have grade 6. I know she's gonna bounce. She's gonna come on to say, well, we're starting at one point. But come on, don't start at grade 6. We got the grade 1s, the prep A that we used to know as prep A. Why not start with the prep A children? What you want to have, you know, they are so accustomed to having people stooping and running behind them that they're now doing it in the schools where you're going to give to the grade 6, which is the oldest set of children or the oldest set of children in the primary school. And you're going to have the prep A and the prep B, which we call grade 1 and 2 now, walking past those canteen or those cafeteria area and just watch through the window to see those children having breakfast and they're not having any. And this is what the PPP likes to do. And so when I saw that, I said, wow, here goes more misinformation, more mismanagement, more malpractice. But Priya doesn't see that as being anything like that. She sees that as being something good where you start off with grade 6. I'm not sure what is so special about grade 6, but this young lady needs serious evaluation too. But I would want to urge that while you're starting off with grade 6, I'm hoping that by next week or the third week or by mid this term, all classes are going to be part of this. And I need to remind our viewers that education has the largest chunk from the budget. And we are in September. Quite a lot of this money has not been spent. You came again and you got some more monies. What is happening with these monies? We're not fixing the schools. We talk about textbooks. And you know what? In every school, the parents are asked to provide textbooks. In every school, parents are asked to provide bleach, Fabuloso, Lysol spray. You're asked to provide fans for the classrooms. You're asked to provide towels, waste paper baskets. All these things you're being asked, parents are being asked to provide. And yet Priya wants to bounce around there and talk a bundle of nonsense. But that's how she operates. And she feels that all these photo ops would get her, you know, somewhere. But again, you know, fancy gallop again. But I want to take time off, though, to congratulate our teachers who would have worked with our CSEC students. Again, these are spills from the coalition. These are works that were put in by the coalition. And so when you see our children who are doing well at CSEC and at CAPE and at grade 6, it is because of what was put in there by the coalition over the last 5 years. We are now seeing the improvements in our math and English. We continue to see that, and we're also seeing what is happening in terms of their grades. Even though I know some people would jump and talk about 27 subjects and why you need 24 and why you need that, but these children are all products of the coalition. And I want to thank our teachers, even though they have not received their clothing allowance, even though they have not had increases in their salaries, even though they were not able to get any sort of promotion this year because there is no teaching service commission. Our teachers have continued to dedicate themselves to the profession of teaching and to give to their children so that our children can be our future leaders, capable future leaders to take charge of this country.
Thank you so much, Honorable MP Coretta McDonald. One of the things I recall when I attended many, many years ago, gosh, I'm saying that now, Alnis, a guy at Alnis Village, a respectable man and his wife, Cedric Ross, nursery school. J.R. Crawford, all of them would know. I believe you, Miss McDonald, went to Magawan. Y'all were big people. Y'all went Magawan. We had to go to Bottomhouse Nursery School. But during those days, there were milk, there was biscuit, there were every single thing. As soon as we reached the school, whether you had something at home or not, you had breakfast, you had something to eat, even at the primary school level as well. Unfortunately, look at what this individual who sits there presenting herself as Minister of Education. They launched a so-called program for only grade 6 students, must go to school every morning, got a box of, and if you check the person who's distributing these, what do you call it, juices, or swamp in these boxes, it's going to cost millions upon millions of dollars. And this dry up cheese roll with no cheese in it, fudge with no milk in it, or nothing. Or maybe they're ordering pulori, millions of dollars worth of pulori from the lady at Monrepo Small Market area. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't even look when you look at how the kids are returning to school as well. Just look at the condition. Look at what's happening, folks. Look at the tile. They rush quickly. This is last minute. You put on some tiles quickly, and kids have to return to school. Look at the latrine. Doors.
Mark, what I can say there. Sure. Sorry that I have to interrupt you. No, but okay. The tiles you're seeing there, you're seeing, if you look carefully, you'll see though that's a flooded bathroom. That's a flooded toilet. The girls' washroom flooded.
I don't know. These guys.
First day of school.
These folks are ridiculous. I don't know. But I'm glad that we have the evidence, that people are seeing it, and this is not just talking. We're seeing the evidence. One of the things that you mentioned, and I got to pick up on that, teachers ought to be properly paid all across the board. Public servants have to be properly paid. You guys, public servants work hard to receive stipends. We've got to get rid of this whole situation where teachers got to get a little housing allowance, they got to get a little uniform allowance, and the teachers need to be properly paid so that they can go out and get their own stuff instead of depending on any government to give them a little voucher to buy a little school uniform or a voucher to buy a shoes. Increase the goddamn salaries of all the teachers and public servants across the board. We know Tanti Moral Jagdeo, just before they were installed, just before they rigged the elections, he said that public servants deserve 50% increase. 50%, he said, sorry. 50%. Well, maybe I'm not sorry, but Miss Ferguson, your take on all these broken promises by the 50% increase, education at the university level, something they took away in 1992, 50,000 jobs. Let's hear from you, please, man.
Man, Mark, it seems as though the People's Progressive Party Civic likes the figure 50. So everything for them is 50,000, 50 this. But Mark, these are indeed all broken promises. Viewers would recall that leading up to the 2020 elections, promises were made that public servants will be paid 50% salary increase. So during the budget of 2022, when we called out Madam Parag on this issue, when will public servants receive their 50%? You know what she said? Public servants were never promised that. That was never a promise made by the People's Progressive Party. Mark, when we as voters witness all the lantern posts across this country from region 1 right down to region 10 in all the riverine communities, what were we serenaded with, Mark? Public servants will be paid 50%. Well, today is only 7% they receive. Only 7% they have received. The other issue is 50,000 house lots. Mark, let me tell you something, and I'm on record saying this. In no given year, whether 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, right up to the 5th year, the People's Progressive Party Civic never distributed 50,000 house lots. And I challenge Ministers Kroll and Roderick to make it public from 1992 way down to May, just before the elections of 2015. They have never, ever in one 5-year term of their office, they have never given a 50,000 house lot. So all these promises, they're just failed and loosed promises. They promised the return of free education. You have made reference to it. The Constitution, the supreme law of this land, speaks wholly and solely to free education from nursery to university. That is what the late Forbes Sampson Burnham gave to all Guyanese. But you know what, Mark? They probably found a way when they came in 1992, rather than revising what the Constitution says. They just impose this private school, perhaps, so that friends, family, and favorites can make monies off of poor people. So they promised the free university. Just the other day, I was listening to an interview done by Bara Jagdeo. And when the question was asked on one of the promises as it relates to free education, he said, we're now in our 2nd year. So we're a 5-year government. So coming down close to the 5th year, that is something that they will be examining. But I want to say to all Guyanese, that is a man we must never believe. Jagdeo has no integrity. So promising Guyanese free education before 2025 will never become a reality under the People's Progressive Party Civic. So Mark, the campaign promises they have made, many to date, they have not honored. They like to say about, the coalition imposed 200 taxes. But you know what, Mark? I challenge, I made a Facebook post just over the weekend challenging this government to provide publicly to all Guyanese a list detailing what constitute these 200 taxes. We have argued that in the National Assembly, and you know what, Mark? To date, they cannot produce the evidence. But every time they open their mouths, it's always about the 200 taxes. We take away this, we didn't do this, and all kind of thing. What they're doing, Mark, it is just everything that they did pre-May 2015.
And you are correct. Promises. In fact, politicians and political leaders and political parties all across the political divide, whether it's in Guyana, whether it's other parts of the world, they do make promises. Sometimes they carry out most of their promises. Sometimes they carry out 50%, and sometimes they just don't carry out anything at all. And so, with that said, the coalition themselves have made some promises that they should have kept. And two things are very close to me that they didn't keep when you guys were in office is to ensure that our young people are no longer criminalized and stigmatized just because of a little small amount of marijuana, a little joint. The prisons are overcrowded with these things. It is my belief that the coalition should have addressed that. The PPP has promised. They, for 23 years, couldn't, but during their elections campaign, they have said that they are going to do that now that they are installed into office. 2+ years, they haven't done that. 5+ years, I know you guys had a battle also, but the issue and the injustices meted out to young people in this country who went off to university and had to pay. Their parents had to find that money, pay for them at the university level when the Constitution said up to the university level it is free. I honestly sit down sometimes and I wish that the coalition would have addressed that and correct that grave injustice meted out to the people of Guyana by the PPP regime for 23 years. But another 5 years was added to that, and now we're hearing all these broken promises again from a bunch of individuals in the PPP who just don't give a damn about young people in the country. And I just thought that I mentioned that these things should have been corrected under the coalition. It's a violation of our constitution, but it wasn't corrected. It's not the end of the day. I know that at some point in time, very soon, that the PPP will be out of office. They will be out of office. They will be kicked out of office by the people of Guyana. That's why they are running around. They're afraid of the elections petitions. They're afraid of the people. That's why they're intimidating people. But the people must stand up and be brave and not allow themselves to be intimidated. Let's move on to one or several other things I have before I let you hardworking ladies go. We're not going to touch on the cost of living now and the long lines of things like sugar and so forth because the people know that. But we will also get to the fact that this whistleblower, Detective Bascom, is still out there and nothing is being done by the police force. It seems as though they're protecting the culprits, the alleged culprits in this murder probe. It appears as though they're protecting that. But one thing I want to ask both of you now is that something that is going around social media and even on the ground in Guyana. This perception and this saying, not just perception, that Guyana is now an apartheid state under the PPP regime. Ms. Carter McDonald, you go first.
Well, Mark, this is actually true. When you look at the way, and this has nothing to do with mainly Afro-Guyanese, our country has returned to the state where you see people in different classes. Like the guy Anil Nandalal said, he's a chatri. So this is where Guyana is now, where we got chat 0, chat 1, chat 2, we got chat 3s, and maybe we got chat 4s. And because of that, again, the friends, families, and favorite, they're the ones who are being featured. And everyone else, and especially if you are not someone or you're not a group of people who will abide with their nonsense, you are being treated worse than second-class citizens. When we look at the manner with which the police is operating, on many occasions, under direct instructions from their political bosses. When we look at the manner with which the people in the education sector operate, under direct instructions from their political bosses, and I can say this, I can say this without any fear of being contradicted. We have a young man who was a teacher. He was attached to Santa Rosa Secondary, did very well there. He was seconded to GCOM, and as a teacher, he was seconded to GCOM because it happens there's provision for it where workers from different sector can be seconded to to other sectors to perform duty. So he was seconded to GCOM. We had a whole fiasco with the 2020 elections. And now this young man is no longer part of GCOM. And so the young man decided to reapply to teach. That young man was offered his reconnection. He was offered his letter of introduction for the Santa Rosa Secondary School. By the time he got to the school, it wasn't a day yet with this young man at school. His head teacher was called by the Teaching Service Commission to say they're withdrawing that the approval and the letter of introduction because they received calls from the office of the president. And so this is what our citizens here are being faced with. And yes, I know they don't like to hear it, but we have returned. This is what we have returned to. We have returned to a state where the rich will get richer and the poor will get poorer, and there will be more suffering in this country. And again, this can be changed, but we've got to change it. We have got to stand up as a people and decide that we're no longer under slavery. We're no longer under our colonial masters. We have a right to dictate whether we want to be governed by these people or we don't want to be governed by these people. We have a right to decide whether we want to be treated this way or we don't want to be treated this way. But it is widespread across this country, whether you're Black, whether you're Indo-Guyanese, whether you're Amerindians, whether you're Chinese, everyone below the friends, the families, and the favorites, they have been relegated to this state.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your comment on that. Apartheid state or not, lots of people are complaining, Ms. Ferguson, as we know that all Guyanese are being treated in a disdain manner by these culprits, these vagabonds, these riggers in office, these PPP riggers. But the bulk of folks who are feeling the squeeze are persons of African descent. Hence this term, Apartheid Guyana under the PPP regime. Your take, Ms. Ferguson.
Mark, I would want to agree that indeed Guyana has become a state that has to be criticized or identified in this manner. And we know the term apartheid speaks wholly and solely to the issue of racial segregation. And it is a term that actually came out from, I think it's South Africa, the blacks against the whites or the whites against the black. But Guyana,
the blacks was the whites were against the blacks. The apartheid system was a system set out to discriminate against black folks, including people like Mahatma Gandhi, who felt hurt after they asked him to leave the carriage and go over to the colored people carriage. So it was against people of color, black people, everyone. It was an injustice. And so these vagabonds who themselves would have been discriminated against in South Africa when it was ruled by a handful of those individuals, they themselves would have been treated worse than crab dogs. But sorry, I had to continue. But go ahead.
That is okay. So Guyana, coming closer to home, Guyana, a nation with 6 races, and as my colleague rightfully put, it is not all the other races, I guess, might be experiencing some degree of apartheid in this country, but more so Africans. Why do I say this, Mark? We have seen with the whole distribution of grants, this body getting 250, this body getting $1 million towards a house lot to construct their homes. This body perhaps getting preference for land. You're giving the Africans, a little 40 by 100 or a little 40 by 80 just for build a house on it without,
and not only that, Miss Ferguson, they're not even giving a bunch of African Guyanese anything at all. They're taking their lands away. They're doing all manner of things. But let me just Let me just remind our people. Let me show them this quick video, please.
These people have no conscience.
The injustices and then letters being sent out to mainly persons of African descent on the Sioux-Dyke Linden Highway to vacate lands that they've been occupying. They've been on for over 20-something years. Sorry, I had to interject. Please
Good.
continue.
And you know, and as we're on land, when the government changed in August, the first month thereafter, September, African people who were occupying lands there in Success, what they did, they flood out those lands. And you had a situation, a back of Bellevue on the west bank of Demerara, where persons of another ethnicity were actually squatting. And what they did, they went in, they gave them roads, they gave them lights, they gave them water, they started regularization. So, Mark, the other issue I see apartheid in this country is the awarding of contracts. Sometimes when I drive through the streets of Georgetown, I'm like, this, I've never read about this company. I've never known about this company. I served in public infrastructure and I can't recall seeing a company by this name. So the whole discrimination against Afro-Guyanese where contracts are concerned. What else do we see? Even at the level in the public service, Mark, I have people who are working in the public service and they will say to me, they constantly would report to me, this body coming who is unqualified, not suited for the job, inexperienced, actually getting a higher position than them, earning more than them, and the ones who have been there in the ministries, they now got to turn back, Mark, and train these people. So for me, it is existing in Guyana, apartheid, and this is a slippery road we are heading down, Mark. We have seen what this kind of situation would have done to people in South Africa. I don't think Guyanese would really want to experience what apartheid can do to a people.
Absolutely well said. We're looking at the time. Our operator is signaling to me, and I know Ms. Carter McDonald said Ben Shop say only half hour. But let me remind our listeners that once our honorable MPs have some time, next Monday, they themselves probably would be hosting this show. They will be sitting in for me because I will be heading to grade 6 for breakfast at that time. So they'll have to, well, of course, it wouldn't be breakfast, but I'll grab my juices from grade 6. Gosh, such corruption, man. Priya, these folks and all these so-called policies that we can see right through them. Corruption upon corruption upon corruption. But I don't have to peep into no grade 6 and beg nobody for no breakfast and snatch a juice and these things. I know my friend, the Honorable MP, is about to get millions of dollars from that vagabond judge. So we all will get breakfast. We will get tea, breakfast, and dinner. But before we move, we close. And just to show some examples as to how Guyana is an apartheid state under the PPP regime, during a protest that the PPP put their instigators inside the protest, because, you know, they always have these agents provocateurs. And so whatever happened in Monrepo, whether self-inflicted or not, I don't know. But Polari lady got hundreds of thousands of dollars, and other people got compensated for what only God knows. But this is how persons of African descent were treated by these vagabonds, these racists, these riggers in the PPP regime.
Mr. Watts, he is armed himself shots. Shots, watch it, tear gas. Light rounds. Also, I can see that.
Just for Quentin!
The man is a boxer, man. Why can't you put in a boxer, man, to do that? But since my cousin there, you know you come on the East Coast. You listen to me. Right? You know you come to the East Coast. You listen to me. You gotta listen to me too, man. I am listening to you. Now, I see you on the East Coast. The day when they get a protest of them, the next day, that's when you see one bigger heads come up for talk to my family. Right? And that's bad. If we didn't do a protest, we want to see nobody for justice. You see? I'm not holding back nothing. I'm not holding back nothing. I just need justice for my family. I get visitors all of a sudden. All of a sudden, you all have visitors. This is Joker. Who is that Joker? That piece of plum. They know who to deliver to.
I'm laughing behind the scene because of that. While Irfan Ali, who is presenting himself as some political leader, sits in the office of the presidency illegally, he is talking, he abusing, he could abuse, you know, and those guys are unfit for office. They're unfit for the offices that they hold. So whilst he abusing David Hines for saying something as innocuous as Yaga visitor by, he vexed his bumps raised. And you know, when I say Irfan and them bumps raised, I really do mean their bumps.
Monkeypox raised.
And so there was something raised that was possible. So when he was busy talking and musing out to David Hines, that little kid, that little boy next to him, I'm glad I meet a man like you know, but let me tell you something. That is what we call boards. That is what we call he just basically propping up and sweet talking. It doesn't respect Irfan Ali. I'm glad I meet a man like you, boy. Look how long I want to meet a man like you. You know, we know that kid doesn't mean it, and Irfan Ali is just what he is, an imposter. Your closing remarks, please. I know we wanted to touch on the Dion Bascom situation. He has no protection. He has nothing, and the PPP continues to protect their friends who are accused, mind you, accused of the murder of Paper Shark. Friends who are accused. I will deal with that tomorrow. But your closing remarks, please, ladies. Who is going first?
Well, I will take the first job. If Coretta don't mind. Mark, once again, I really thank you for having me on your program. I trust that the issues that we have highlighted, it would have brought clarity to our people. You know, this whole issue on Quindon Bacchus, no, not Quindon Bacchus, I think the Bascom boy, no? The Bascom boy is a very, very unfortunate situation. And to know that Mr. Ali hasn't acted, even though the young man through his attorney would have requested for protection, is only God could help him at this point in time. So I want to say to all Guyana, all Guyanese, hope is still alive. And you know, the old saying goes, one day bucket a go well, the bottom must fall out. And you know, we have seen from August 2020 to now, we have seen the PPP, they have really showed their hands in all the sector. No proper protection by the Guyana Police Force. We're getting shabby works across the ministries of public infrastructure. You know, public servants being treated unfairly. So I'm saying all of this to say, Mark, and to end by saying to my people, do not lose hope. Stand firm, remain steadfast, and know that the coalition will be back. We will continue to represent and represent, we will. Thank you very much, and may God richly bless you, Matt, and our listeners.
Thank you too. Ms. McDonald?
Mark, I want to thank you for this opportunity again, but I want to say to our viewers, I want to say to our people out there, don't be misled with all of those photos that you see all over the place. Don't feel too important when they come to your communities, because all they're coming there, especially when they're going to our Black communities, all they're going there to do is to have photo ops and to share them widely and to give people the impression that we have a one Guyana. Don't be impressed by that. Don't feel that they're doing anything for you. They're not doing anything for you. And I want to say too, that we must remember where we came from. We had the PPP there for 23 years. Hundreds and thousands of young black men lost their lives. Nobody can give account for it. Some were very, very daring in broad daylight where people saw them, readily coming to mind Shaka Blair. The boys, the three boys right on the back road here by DSL where they shot them in their heads. Johann C. Douglas, all of these, no kind of justice their family received. And so it's the same PPP coming again, this time under a different disguise, but it's the same leopard, the same tiger, the same elephant, the same lion coming again. And to this time they're coming with a different mindset, that they're going to try to fool people with all of these pictures and try to fool the internationals that, oh, look, you see here, we are in Black communities. We are doing this, we are doing this, we are doing that. But you look at what is happening. When you visit the East Indian communities, you look at what is being done there as against when you visit the Black communities. We saw when we had the whole picketing act, the protest action, the peaceful protesting action, when the folks were marching for Quindon Bacchus and what erupted at Mon Repose. And we saw the result of that. But you know what? Just yesterday, we had a storm that hit Beirut. Many, many families are traumatized. Roofs were blown off. Water was flooding people's homes. And to date, no government minister has reached out to those people. So when you hear them talk about this one Guyana, the one Guyana that they're talking about is Efren Ali, whatever is his name, Meki. It's about them, their friends, and their families. The only time they know the citizens, the masses in this country, it's when it's election time when they want to come and give you some handout and give you $25,000 and so on, and then they pay you with a $5,000 and give you a box of food to come to their rallies and to put on their jerseys and to say, oh, I get better treatment under the PPP. Don't be fooled. The PPP are receiving large sums of money, and let me say that the coalition, while they were in office, without the oil money, citizens lived a better life. Under the coalition, we had over 77% increase in salaries. Under the PPP, with the oil money, you got a so-called 7%, but you got 3.5%. And the cost of living is way over 14%. So what are we doing? Under the PPP, teachers couldn't get increases beyond 7% under the PPP. Under the coalition, teachers were able to get 12% salary increases, and that came right down the ladder. But under the PPP, we have seen, we saw the criticism of the coalition ministers getting 50%. But you know what? The PPP ministers right now are enjoying that same 50% in their salaries. They have not said, let us take that out and have normal salaries. They are all enjoying the same things they criticize are the same things that they're enjoying as we speak. And I want to say to our viewers, finally, don't be fooled. Don't feel that you're important when they come to your communities and promise you and to give you a grass cutter. You can't eat grass cutter. You can't eat a lawnmower. Let them put systems in place. It is the Black communities that they went into, and they disbanded the night schools. that were providing the opportunities for our young people to give them that second chance. The Critchlow Labour College has been punished. And many of the PPP ministers went to that same Critchlow Labour College to be educated. But now they're punishing Black people's children and other people's children from going to the Critchlow Labour College to get a second chance. And these are the people who we're talking about because we care. Imagine the molders of the nation's children who we all depend on. They can't get up to now their proposal being looked at. When the president, the other day, the installed president was threatened by the GPSU, he said, we will talk with them. That's the kind of respect they have for people. We will talk with them. You know, you're not saying we will engage the GPSU, the president and other execs. I will talk with them at a convenient time. They have no respect for you. And you would have to stand up and demand that we are not treated like second-class citizens. Guyanese people are living here and you can't access lands freely, but Bajans can get how many acres of land to come and farm, but our own people can't get those lands. And when they do decide to offer you a house lot, it is way beyond what you can afford. And the banks here are of no support to you because there are no systems in place for you to be able to go to the banks to be able to get a loan to finance the purchase of that land and to start putting up your foundation. And before 2 months pass, they're sending you letters to say, we are going to repossess because up to now you can't this, you can't that, you can't pay down, all kinds of foolishness. People, don't be fooled by the people. They are good at disguising. Don't be fooled by them. And I want to say, finally, the motto of this country says, one people, one nation, one destiny. And so don't be fooled by the one Guyana because we don't have one Guyana.
Absolutely. Well said. There is no one Guyana. There is a corrupt Guyana under the PPP regime because the PPP regime is a hallmark of corruption, rigors, and all manner of things. You mentioned the situation in Beirut where people's house roofs blew off because of that high wind, whatever it is that they had. It was horrible. The fact that nobody I know of, I haven't seen anybody in this installed rigged PPP regime went out there to even sympathize with the people. I do hope, though, that members of the opposition, the coalition, members of parliament, the leadership were down there to console those people, to hug them, and to something. I know that there are some caring people indeed in the coalition, and I do hope that those caring people went out there and wouldn't just make it a one visit and that's it. But I do hope some of the AFC folks were also out there. I do hope.
And Mark, if you would just allow me, I want to say to our viewers that yes, our folks were out there last evening, yesterday afternoon into night, and we provided lots of support for them, and persons have been keeping in touch with them all during today. I also want to say to us that today marks the 2nd death anniversary of the Henry boys. And so a huge rally was planned there today, and a monument was erected and in memory of those 2 young men who up to now, their true killers cannot be identified. Just remember that.
Absolutely, and you preempted me on this here. The Henry boys, no justice, nothing, and people are of the view. Another case of cover-up, just like the police, what they're doing with the paper shorts or whatever, paper shorts murder probe. People are saying the same here. These guys, these are the persons who they picked up and dig, as we say, the murder charge. And these guys have said that they're innocent. And I am almost certain, well, not almost certain, there is no physical evidence, none whatsoever, linking these guys to the murders of the Henry cousins. No physical evidence. The only evidence they have is one of them said, all of them been there. And that's it. And so they charged. And the other one who said that all of them been there actually said to the media, me never tell a police that, me no know if it them right. Me no know if it them right. Tell a police to tell me, he write something and he tell me let me sign on paper. So the point of being, if the guy who allegedly made this confession, give this confession statement, said publicly, me no know for read and write. A police writer man they tell me let me sign a paper. Mina said that the guy actually said that in public. So when this matter reaches in front of a real magistrate or a judge, do you think it would stand? It's out the door. But they're just wasting time by holding on to these guys so that people can think that indeed, according to what that little boy Irfan Duns Ali said, that there will be no stones left unturned. I don't know. Ladies, I want to thank you both so much. Thank you all for coming out on this show. Thank you all for going out and meeting the people too. Next time when you go out, Miss Annette Ferguson, into the streets, into the communities, grab about 5 of your colleagues who don't go out, who don't do nothing, who just sit there in the shadow and waste taxpayers' money. Miss McDonald, you grab 6 of them too and take them out there. Fight the people, fight the PPP. And you guys do know how to fight. Yeah. Thank you all so much, though.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, members of parliament there for the opposition. We do hope that whenever they go out next, that they will grab 5 each of their colleagues so that we can have stronger representation out there and to see all of our MPs out there. We don't want them to remain in the shadow, pretending that they're bigger and high and mighty than others. We don't want them. And we are not going to tolerate any sort of disrespectful acts coming from not even these pakus in the government. We must never allow that to happen with those who are placed there to represent us, those in the coalition. And if some of them don't like it, too bad. We will take that whip out, and that political whip that is, and we will give them some political lashes so that they can get the hell out of their offices or wherever they're peeping and shadowing and all these manner of things, making some occasional Facebook appearance and swinging up themselves as though they're the best things since sliced bread. We're going to get them to go out. If they don't want to go out, resign, just get out of politics, find something else. Go become a bartender, a bouncer, become a hairdresser, do something. Just go. Don't waste our time, right? Because now is the time we need strong leadership, real strong leadership to stand up against these vagabonds in the PPP regime. Hey, I'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time. Those of you who are celebrating your birth anniversary, happy birthday to all of you. If you're grieving for some reason or the other, we extend our condolences to you guys as well, and our prayers for all of Guyana. Thank you all so much for being with us. And as they say in that sitcom, Three's Company? Thank you for being a friend. Well, thank you indeed for being a friend, and thank you for tuning in to Straight Up on 107.1 FM. Bye-bye.
Small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Neighbor has some little children. I'm going to sing it and the dancers really admire them. Small days is still on my mind.
So, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington law firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
It's a good time. Neighbor has some little children. I'm going to sing the dancers really admire them. Yes, they're singing. Ching, ching, ching. See for mama. With 10 fat chickens. Boogie. She fat like a butter, and she marble like a chow. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Never had so little children. I'm gonna sing it and dance, that's really admire them.
What they singing?
On your carpet, you must be like the roses, all you need, bright and shining, you must be, and show me the one, love the best. When I marry, I give you the ring. First the girl, second the boys, Sunday, Monday, afternoon, we will spend our honeymoon. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Never had some little children. I'm gonna sing it and dance, that's really admire them.
Join the singing.
Old man house on fire, the old man ran away. He ran for the police to get the water, the ugly fire down there. Escalated, shoo, 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 escalated, shoo, shoo, shoo. And I wipes the lady face, the lady wipes the lady face. And she fell down, and she fell down, and she fell in the ocean too. Oh, small days is still on my mind. Small days is a good time. Never had some little children. I'm really singing and that's really admire them.
Hear them singing?
Children, children, yes, where you been? Grandmama, what she give you? Bread and cheese. Where is mine? On the shelf. How big a get up? I'm on a chair.